All right. Well, welcome, David. Welcome to the BBS conversation series, after party, right?
After party.
Where we get to learn a little more, highlight you as well. Obviously, you won, so you're doing just fine. But really what we want to do is tell your story, have you tell your story, get to know you a little more, as well as figure out what you're asking us. What do you need help with? How can we help? How can our audience help? What can we do to highlight you more and get you even to the next level of success? So why don't we jump right into that? Why don't you tell us your story and how you got to where you're at today?
Yeah. And thank you, by the way, for having me. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Grew up in a middle-class household. And as most African-American kids can attest to, there were not a whole lot of blerds like me running around. So there was very few influential characters to draw from who weren't in the service industry or, kind of doing things outside of the scope of what I'm operating in now. So just kind of realizing that representation was important, and also being true to yourself was even more important. I just kind of followed my own path. Something I normally speak about in lectures and just mentorship cases is kind of creating your own path, like blazing your own trail as opposed to taking the beaten one. I think if I can be corny and quote Robert Frost, one of my favorite poems by him is Two Roads Diverged in a Wood. So I definitely am a case scenario of that. I've always been sort of the black sheep of my family and always the tech guy, air quotes. Just having the tenacity to fix things and to understand on an infrastructural level how things operate and not taking things at face value, I believe was what started me on the course when I was a kid. Moving forward to high school is when I kind of got into my more mischievous ways of just figuring out like how to manipulate software, hacking and that kind of stuff, but ethical hacking,
all the good
never
stuff.
did any,
Right.
legal
hacking.
But I also got into like video game design and programming. So I started working on creating emulators and ROMs. So I figured out like very quickly how to create facsimiles of some of the more popular game titles out, and I started selling those. So that was like my first foray into entrepreneurship. I think I was around 14 years old. And I think when I turned 15 is when I really got my first taste of a micro business that was actually fairly successful. What I'd started out doing before is typing up papers. I can type pretty quickly. So I was also pretty intelligent. So being able to like, type up a paper and guarantee an A in like less than a day. And then I started outsourcing that. So, charging $20 a page, kids are lazy, especially in the
I was gonna say that's
early
big
2000s.
business.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I turned that into a micro business and started doing pretty well. And, my mom would always ask, like, where are you getting all this money from? And I would explain, and I don't think she quite understood what it was. But that was that's when I really realized that entrepreneurship was for me. As I said, I didn't really have a whole lot of figureheads to draw from in terms of getting into tech, but there was a lineage of entrepreneurship in my family. So I did have one family member, an uncle who I'd still speak to. I'll actually be visiting him soon, who exited a business successfully, which was pretty cool. So just learning from these guys and I guess doing trial by fire. It really guided me in where I wanted to end up, and ultimately I knew that I wanted to pursue like a road of egalitarianism, and just help people. That's kind of where my niche was. So moving forward, I got into music pretty early on as well, and I was actually thrust into it. So a little bit of backstory on that. I failed 7th grade, believe it or not. I've kind of ended up in one of those situations during the 90s, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. Well, you look like you're around my age, so you probably know about the what do you call it, with the pills, like
Oh,
Ritalin, that kind
Ritalin.
of
Yeah, yeah.
academics.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I was subject to that, and it actually turned out that I was very much advanced, but just teachers they didn't know what to do with me. Um, and so that kind of it led me to becoming problematic, and that I already knew what I wanted to do, and just the typical coursework of the United States educational system is very regressive. It's not challenging whatsoever, and it's very cookie cutter. And I don't like cookie cutter. I need to color outside of the lines, and to just be my own person, and to let those eagle wings soar. And the CPS, the Chicago Public School System, was not ready for that. So um, I say all that to say I became a musician because I had another class that was put on my table once I got out of the special education program, which I don't think I should have been in the first place, but what have you. Um, so I was given the choice between either choir or music, or band rather. So I chose band, and I was given a clarinet, and I learned how to play pretty quickly, and very quickly ascended to first chair. I got on a lot of people's radars, and I'm trying to tell the short story.
Yeah, you're good.
um, so I got on a number of musical institutions' radars. Here in Chicago, we have a program called the All City Music Program, which is kind of like the best of the best out of all of the music school programs. Um, so what ended up happening is I auditioned and I became first chair from that. And that got me a couple of cool auditions. I ended up ultimately choosing the Juilliard School, which is where I got my bachelor's of music performance and film score composition, so my BFA rather. And then I ended up becoming a pilot, which was pretty cool after that. I'm like talking in gaps right now.
Right.
Obviously, a lot more things happened, but I traveled the world. I've been to 72 countries now. I speak 6 languages. Yeah, I've mostly been self-taught throughout this entire process. When I got out of flying, my wife actually was pregnant with our child, so I figured that I wanted to be in this child's life, and I also wanted to pursue something more meaningful than just flying an airplane, which is cool. And I'm
Right.
definitely not trying to discount it. It's definitely a dream job. Let's not get it twisted. But I figured that I could be of better help to the world. So what I ended up doing is teaching myself how to code on overnights. When I would be in hotels, or even during periods where we were just flying and I didn't have control of the yoke. So I taught myself a basic programming language and created my first app. And it was based upon the theory of when you travel, the issue is you run into situations where you don't understand how the local economy works. On a socioeconomic level, you have places like America, which is very fixed. You can take it at face value, unless you're in Chicago where taxes are sky high and you end up paying higher taxes. But you go to a place like Mexico, you go to a place like Brazil, and most likely you'll be hit with a gringo tax if you have to ask what the price is. Happens a lot. It leads to issues of being scammed. It leads to more issues of escalated violence. And I figured I could create a solution to this, and I did. So that solution was an app called Priosk, which basically it democratized the index of a market. So you would be able to see what other people paid for a specific type of product. That was the first company that I exited, and that was pretty cool. So fast forward, I started at another software company called Light Engine Labs, and that was to help people of color to kind of break through that sort of glass ceiling that exists, especially within the technology space. There's a lot of us who want to create marketplaces or just to have a beautiful website, and ultimately we don't know how to do it. There's a number of tools out there like WordPress and so forth that can help you along that path, but if you don't understand even the basics, then you're still going to kind of be lost. So what we did is we created this organization, and we were able to create hundreds. No, actually, I think by the end it was couple thousand projects that we did. We've created web apps, mobile apps. We've done back-end development. We've done websites, like you name it. We've probably had our hand in it. We've worked with some pretty reputable organizations. But then, fast forward to last few years, I had a bigger idea, and I was actually, and I don't know if you got a chance to see the pitch competition, but the genesis of Lumina Energy came when I was backpacking in Thailand, and I ran across a kid who was doing his homework basically in the street next to a 7-Eleven, and I got curious. His parents were around, so I asked him. I said, "Well, what is this kid doing? Like, why isn't he in his home? Cars are whizzing by, and it's just not an apt place for doing homework." So they were very honest and genuine. They said, "This area that we live in, it just doesn't have appropriate energy concerns. So they don't know when the next blackout would occur. They would mostly have like 4 to 5 hours of continuous energy throughout the day. And the best solution was to just go outside and work." And I said, "Come on, like this is 2000, I think back then it was 2019. And we don't have to do it this way. Like there's other solutions." So I taught myself electrical engineering, and I partnered with a number of people who kind of helped mentor me and guide me. And we created officially the first functioning virtual power plant. Now we're operating in how many countries? We're in 3 countries, and we have about 200 something nodes, which are basically systems on our platform, and we're constantly scaling. So yeah, that's that's it in a nutshell.
How does that
Pretty
work?
sweet.
How does a virtual
That's what I was like, virtual.
power plant work? How does that work?
So the concept of a virtual power plant is utilizing what's called decentralization, which means that it's not relying on a singular source. Like you guys you're in Iowa, right? If I'm not mistaken?
Yep.
Okay. So in Iowa, you guys have like Alliant Energy, and you have Mid-American, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Mid-American basically functions as the sole energy provider, which means that if anything happens to them, if one of their transformers blows out, if they blow up, no more energy, poof, it's gone. So a virtual power plant is the antithesis to what that is, meaning that we turn every single, standing property into an energy generator by the means of renewable energy. So a good example is taking a single household and fitting it with solar panels. Then using a battery source, which stores excess energy. Any excess energy that is not used is then shared back into the local grid via the energy blockchain. And therefore, you hedge against blackouts, you hedge against brownouts, which is basically it's a demand that cannot be met by local energy providers. It's defensible against military attacks. It's defensible against natural disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, landslides, etc. And ultimately, it feeds into the economy. So this enables the average working day person to have another form of income. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's great. I think it will be, and I'm glad you're doing it, more of the future, and a lot from the standpoint of defense tactics, right? In the military sense, countries are going to want that, need that. 2, the extra little income always helps, but it really is going to allow us to, Mid-American, for example, they monopolize the area, right? It is what it is. This is what you have,
Right?
And it allows true competition, which hopefully makes Mid-American better, but also overall helps the end user. So I think it's amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's a very exciting space to be in. The technology itself is only a few years old. So I definitely feel like a trailblazer in that respect. And the idea that we can help billions of people and to help to architect smart cities for the next several millennia, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So What are you looking for, and what do you need help with? Right? Obviously, if you were already successful in everything, you would have sold this thing for billions and be on a beach somewhere. So, what are you looking for in help and getting to where you want to take this thing?
I think honestly, the biggest help that we could use at the moment is just kind of plugging us with people who need our services, uh, utilizing our own networks, leveraging partnerships between organizations like yourselves to get the word out. Um, our business model is based on business to government, so we don't normally target single households. We go after like a West Des Moines, for instance, and help to build out their utility. So being connected to the right people makes all of the difference in our case. I mean, there's only so much that we can do as a startup, and I think that our true power lies in local partnerships.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you guys are global. Is that correct?
We're getting there. I mean,
are
like
you
I
more
said,
are you more local U.S. area?
well,
Kind of
we
what's
have
your scope?
we have presence in Canada and the Dominican Republic, and of course the United States. But ultimately, what our target market is the Caribbean, because it's just kind of a perfect storm of having ample sunlight on an annual basis. Their grid isn't necessarily the best, which means that it could use supplementation. Um, and also just the amount of natural disasters that plague places like Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Haiti. That's kind of where our sweet spot is. So, yeah, I mean, we definitely want to get to a global place eventually, but as I said, just kind of helping people who are, Black and brown is really where our focal point is, and also helping people that are in our backyard. There's, I think, and I could be wrong. I think there's around 20 Caribbean countries, something like that. Don't fact check me. That need our help.
Yeah, absolutely.
We won't fact check you. Don't worry.
What does the process look like, right? So you get introduced to some municipality, and what does that whole thing look like? Where do you guys come into play? How does it all end up happening?
Yeah. So there's basically four phases of production with us. Number one is we need to actually install our systems. So we first go in and do an energy audit to understand like what is the deficit here, where are the places of improvement, what sort of technological help could you guys need? So we would, in theory, go and install several thousand nodes, which are virtual power plant systems. After that, we set up what's called an edge computing server, which basically works as like how's the best way to explain it? It's like a traffic controller, if you will. And then we connect all of those components to our software, which is an energy management system. So energy trades can be executed. So that's number three. And then number four is just making sure that everything works, because technology breaks. Let's not beat around the bush here. Our normal components will last upwards of 25 years with proper maintenance, but we've created what's called an MRO program, which is maintenance, repair, and operation. So anything that does happen on the back end, we have an academy, and we train locally, so local residents can actually repair their own grids and remain independent and autonomous.
So are you guys using your own panels, or do you have partners that provide the solar panels? Like how's that work?
Yeah. So we have partners. We are basically a data company that is moonlighting as an energy company. So being able to pull statistics, and each of our nodes pulls data somewhere around 10 times a second. So we're seeing what's happening in real time and what needs to be augmented. We use a form of AI and machine learning, which enables the marketing index to constantly fluctuate and for us to address those needs in real time.
I'm trying to think.
That stuff is
Sorry,
amazing.
I know it's a mouthful.
No, it's like,
no, you're
and
good.
you taught yourself all about this? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, with what I'm doing, there's a lot of concentration. So you're talking AI, you're talking IoT, electrical engineering, software development, cloud cloud architecture, renewable energy as a service. Yeah, so there's quite a bit that's going into that.
What's your end goal?
End goal is to provide a platform in which everyone is equal. And I believe that the starting block for that foundation is energy. Nothing happens without it this day and age. Clean drinking water is not possible without energy. Sustainable food is not possible without energy. Nothing happens without it. And if I can provide a platform in which our future generations can benefit from that, and not have to, and basically erase the term developing country from our vocabulary, then that would be my end goal.
In terms of Lumina Energy, what's your goal? Are you looking to build this thing up to sell it, or are you going to be there until the day you die?
I don't know yet. I'm having fun with this.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I get to wake up and genuinely enrich people's lives every day, doing something that I love and working in bleeding edge technology, there's no better reward for me. Like you said, I could be on a beach somewhere, and I have the means to do that now, but I would prefer to help people.
Yeah, I think that really resonates with me and with us, and that's what I love about your company. I love your story about, in being in Thailand, finding the boy, not having the light to do homework. I'm curious what kind of impact you're seeing now. Like, what kind of stories are you hearing now from where you're at and who you're helping?
Yeah,
so
we actually published the world's first energy report, virtual power plant energy report, I think a few months ago. And one of the first things we're taught in entrepreneurship is to go and interview your beta users. So as I said, we're in beta right now. The idea that someone in Sedona, Arizona, can live off grid or live on grid and have a genuinely higher quality of life based upon this technology is something that is fantastic. We own a solar farm in the Dominican Republic. So being able to provide several megawatts worth of power to hundreds of thousands of homes, people who sometimes don't have drinking water or don't have access to the internet, for instance, we're giving them the platform to build on that will ultimately make their lives happier. And by the way, and this is just off topic, but someone reached out to me this morning in the Dominican Republic asking for a job, and the fact that we are able to employ people who are still reeling from this lockdown, from the effects that have cascaded across the entire globe from the pandemic, it means a lot. These are some of the real use case stories that are happening to us, and there's a lot of elated feelings that come from that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So I know in our area, there's a lot of push for solar, for renewable energy, different stuff like that. So all of these, different governmental city municipalities, they might have incentive programs where, if you're using above this amount of energy, then you can qualify for this grant. Would Lumina be something where it bridges that gap to where there's no necessarily threshold? It's just, hey, we want to be cleaner as a city, and there might be an incentive for everybody rather than, Stoy uses $150 a month in his energy. Ryan only uses $75. Stoy can qualify for that grant because it lowers it as a whole, where Ryan can't because he's not utilizing as much.
Yeah, that's exactly why we created the program. So basically the government doesn't have a say-so, or not a say-so, but just less of a stronghold on who can make money with renewable energy and who can't. And furthermore, who can have access to these components. So being able to utilize something like community solar, which means that you don't necessarily have to have solar panels on your house to take advantage of a virtual power plant and still make money from that, means a lot. And furthermore, using the energy blockchain, we'll be launching our own cryptocurrency in the next couple of months, crypto token, I should say. Having the ability to trade energy and have it on par, so so anyone can take advantage of it is truly compelling in my eyes.
Do you or have you yet had competitors, i.e., a Mid-American, just because I don't like them, attacking you yet, or how are they feeling in regards to what's happening with you right now?
Yeah, it's actually quite the opposite. We're not their competitor at all. If anything, we are a supplemental service in the United States, because let's be honest, our grid is among the top in the world. But in a place like, the Dominican Republic or Ghana, places where there isn't such a robust grid, that's kind of where our sweet spot is. But yeah, we look to partner with organizations like Mid-American, ComEd, which exists here in Illinois.
Do you see these solar farms becoming bigger and more spread out? Obviously, we think about all of our deserts and being able to throw those out there, but do you see these solar farms building and scaling because they are profitable for owners? Do you see that coming forward?
Yeah, and to be very frank, it doesn't take a lot of square footage, which is surface area, which is kind of the gold standard of how we decide how much energy is needed to make an impact. So if I were to be very honest with you, I believe this, and I think it's somewhere around 200 square miles of solar farms, of a single solar farm, could actually power the entire United States and Canada. So, I mean, if you put that into perspective, to have an area, a few hundred square miles long in the Sahara Desert, you would power a lot of Africa. You could do very much the same with geothermal, because we don't just operate in solar. That's just kind of what the poster child is at the moment. But having wind farms or geothermal farms or hydro dams, like all of these are necessary, and they don't need a lot of space, and they could potentially produce several terawatts of power, which would make fossil fuels obsolete. Not to say that it'll happen now, but in the near future, we will deplete those resources, and it's important to start moving toward that now.
Absolutely. As we wrap up, is there any final things that you want to say or get off your chest?
Yeah, no, I think that I'm appreciative of you guys taking time out of your day for this. We as a society need to move toward a sustainable future. There's enough resources out here for every single man, woman, and child for the indefinite future. And all it takes is people like us to move that needle. And, moving that needle could be as simple as posting on your social media account. Like there's plenty of things that we can do for free that can have a long-term impact on someone who desperately needs this, maybe a foreign or domestic.
Absolutely. I love it. As always, we'll have his information, Luminez's information, on the podcast and on YouTube as well available. Reach out. We'll answer questions we can. If not, we'll have to call him back in and say, answer these questions for us. Obviously, if you want to get involved, just, like he said, a simple post is a good step. If you want to get more involved, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of things coming out, and you can always reach out. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate everything that you do, because you are really changing what the future will look like for our children, for us, for our children's children. So we definitely appreciate you, and you have a good day, sir.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to affect or attempt to affect transactions and securities, or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors, including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.